you for joining us this evening for the Board of Education's first informal budget workshop this Thursday, January 4th. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, we're going to have three presentations, or two? Three? Okay. First, with Mrs. Stacy O'Connor, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Let me just get the presentation set up so we can start. Okay.
Just a reminder to the folks at home, the chat room is open and you can send in any questions at any point during the presentations. Thank you.
Okay, again, thank you, everybody. We're all set to go. There'll be three of us presenting today. I'll present some of the general support codes. We'll also have Byron McCrae go over security, and Eric Harland will go over transportation. So, just presenting our Board of Education, Superintendent, and Cabinet. So the district's mission is up there. The Brentwood School District, in partnership with our community, will provide an exceptional education, build character, and empower all students to reach their full potential as lifelong learners in a diverse global society. The vision is there as well. You can read that online. But we're talking about our budget development, and it ties hand in hand with the district's goals and mission. So when we talk about these budget development meetings, we're looking to describe the district's plan for the upcoming school year. We do that through a series of meetings. This is the first of, I believe, 5 meetings, more than any other district that I'm aware of. Some actually do it in one meeting in one night. It's pretty hard to do with a budget our size, so we break it up into little pieces so we can go more deeply into each and every area. Our second objective, I just mentioned, is having the meetings. It's a forum for discussion, and we really encourage the input from the Board of Education, the community, all stakeholders. And then our third objective is to take what we discussed at all of the meetings and translate that into the financials for our budget. So we allocate the resources according to what we stated as our goals. So how does the process work? The Board of Education has two main responsibilities in the school district, and that is developing this budget each year, and it's also policy. So budget is a big piece of what we do, and it takes months to put together. The vote, as we know, is in May, always the third Tuesday in May. That's a statewide vote. And we start, I have the timeline right after this. It actually starts in October in the business office. So the superintendent and I work very closely together to put together the budget, but there are many other stakeholders who provide input to get us there. And then we have our series of meetings where input is appreciated, solicited, and we really want to hear from everybody to make this a comprehensive budget. So what is the timeline? We actually start in the business office in October, as I said. Eric and I work on that, doing enrollment projections. We have to put together a lot of information that we send out to the budget supervisors throughout the district, so that is received by both the building principals and the budget administrators of different departments by November 1st. We expect the building principals to submit their budgets back to us before the Thanksgiving break, so that Tuesday or Wednesday before we go on the Thanksgiving break. Departmental budgets are a little bit more complicated, so we expect to have those back the first Friday in December. Once we get everything back in the business office, we have to do the inputting, and some of the information that we receive back helps us to develop other budget codes throughout the budget, such as benefits. I can't put benefits in until I have all of my staffing down, because it's dependent upon each other. So we continue working throughout the month of December. It's always a very busy break for us because there's so much to get done, and then we start our informal budget workshops as we're here now in January. So again, stakeholder involvement is really encouraged and helpful. That's from the Board of Education, the Cabinet, all departments in the buildings, unions, parents, community members. Anybody who has suggestions, we are certainly open to hearing them. And then what are some of the budget components that we have to go over? Well, of course, there's instructional costs as a school district, but there's also administrative support services. When you think of a school district, you don't always think of the other departments within the school district. We have transportation, we provide lunches, big cafeteria program, there are facilities, there's security, we have nurses, we have, we're truly, a big business here, even though we're a school district, and what you mostly think of is the education piece. And for a school district budget, it's a little different than companies, because our biggest component of the budget is salary and benefits. It's the teachers, the TAs, the monitors, everybody right in that classroom is really our biggest component of the budget. We have two sides of the budget. I'll mention that in a little bit, but we have, revenue is one side. I had mentioned, the components I had just mentioned were really on the expenditure side. But revenues, our biggest form of revenue for the general fund budget is state aid, and that comes in the form of foundation aid. There are other aids within our state aid, but foundation aid is by far the biggest piece. We also have federal aid. That doesn't go into our general fund budget, but we do receive that in the form of Title I, II, III, IV grants, as well as special education. That's Section 611, Section 619. We get McKinney-Vento aid, and we get many other aids. Even our school lunch program has a state aid component and a federal aid component. We get building aid, for construction projects we do. So there are many forms of revenue based on how we spend our funds. We also have what Dr. Leone had presented a number of times, our stimulus funds, and he had called it alphabet soup. The GEAR, the ESSER, the ARP, the CARISA. Those funds, some of those funds have ended already. CARISA had ended in September of '23. Our ARP will be the last to end, and that ends in September of '24. So as we put together the '24-25 budget, we have to be very mindful of that, because those funds won't continue. So if we want those programs, the staff members in those funds, we have to move them into the general fund. So that's what we're doing now as well. So it complicates things a little bit more this year, but we are on top of it. Another revenue source is also the property tax levy. We are restricted to a property tax cap formula, which we don't have enough information right now to put together. We get that in the month of February, so we'll have that shortly. But that is capped at CPI or 2%. CPI is the Consumer Price Index, which is tied in with inflation. So if the CPI is 1%, we'd have to go with 1%. It's CPI or 2%, whichever's lower. The budget approval process.
So could you just explain really briefly what CPI is?
CPI is the Consumer Price Index. It's a measure of how much it's costing, how much prices have either gone up or gone down. There have been years the CPI has been negative and we were stuck at a 0%. We couldn't change the levy, so that's happened. Yeah, so it's tied into the economy. That's what the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is.
Thank you.
Sure. So once the budget is developed, the school board has to adopt a budget that's going to be voted upon on the third Tuesday in May. They have to do that 28 days prior to the vote. And then Ms. Hoey, the clerk, it gets very, very busy at that time. And we're also required to hold a budget hearing 7 to 14 days prior to the vote. So some of the budget basics I mentioned this a little bit ago. There are two budgets that we have to put together. We talk mostly about the expenditure budget at this time, but there's also a revenue budget. I just had mentioned the revenue sources, and the revenue budget and the expenditure budget must be in balance. They have to be equal at the end of our process. So again, initially, we're going to start with the expenditure side. The state's budget isn't due until April 1st. We won't know that revenue number until that time. Hopefully, sometimes it's been late, but that is the goal of the state, to get it done by April 1st. Just a little bit about the budget code structure in the general fund, because you're going to see this a little bit later in the presentation when we actually show the line-by-line budget. So when you look at a budget code, it can really tell you quite a bit. It'll start with a letter, and that letter tells you what fund it is. So A is our general fund. There are many other funds, as I mentioned before. Our federal aid goes into what's called a special aid fund. That would start with an F. We have a cafeteria fund. We have a capital fund. So what we're going to talk about during these presentations is the A fund, or our general fund. The next component of a budget code is a function code. So even that can tell you quite a bit. You see the function codes down there where I have 1,000 is a general support code. So if that function code starts with a 1, it's going to be general support. If it starts with a 2 or 2,000 something, it's instruction. 5,000 is transportation, and 9,000 is benefits. The next component in the general fund budget code is our object code, and that also tells you a lot of information. If it's a 1,000 level code, starts with a 1, it's a salary code. A 2,000 level code is equipment, and so on, as you can see on the slide. The next two components for the general fund, location and program, are optional. So you'll see some budget codes that have a location code, specifically if it's a school. Like each school has their own budget, so they have their own location code. But there are some central codes that may not have a location code, and we'll see that as we go along. In the general fund, program codes are rarely used. It's only if we have to segregate funds for a certain program or some way we're going to have to report information. We'll see it tonight, I think, in the security budget. We have a 3602 code. That's our community schools aid. That's something that we have to report on separately, but we have to keep it in the general fund. So it helps both Eric and myself when we have to do the reporting throughout the year and at the end of the year. So if we look at that code on that screen, A2110 5011, and no program code, all zeros, I could tell A is a general fund, 2110 is instruction, 5,000 is a supply, 11 is administration. So that's a supply code in the administration building. So just by looking at that, you could tell by the components what it is. So tonight we're going to talk about general support, security, transportation, and our benefits. So I will start with our general support, and we're going to jump over, and you're going to see a bunch of budget codes. Gotta go a little smaller. Okay, so now we can see that. So we start with the Board of Education codes. That's a 1010 area. And at the beginning of the report, we just see that each board member is granted certain registration and conference funds. New board members are required to go to certain trainings their first year in. Just going to wait for the screen to catch up. Do I have to stop sharing and share them?
If I didn't know you guys had, I would have given them to you. I'm sorry. It's just a different screen.
No, it's a link that was within the PowerPoint.
It's working now. Okay, good.
Happens.
That's good.
Guilty, guilty.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so
Thank you.
take two. So now we see the 1010 codes, which is the Board of Education area. Each board member is given a registration and conference code. New board members are required to go to certain trainings, and other board members just continue their PD and go to certain trainings, so we allow funds for that. When we go through these lines, unless there's any questions, we really just touch on the ones that have changes. I can do it either way. So we see the Board of Education membership fees, and that's going up a little bit. We joined a new group moving forward, a group we had been a member of years ago. That's called REFIT. So that's about reforming education finance. And as we know about foundation aid, the past few years, it's been phased in over 3 years. And the last year of the phase-in was this year, 23-24. So moving forward, 24, 25, and beyond, the state is talking about reconfiguring that foundation aid formula. And REFIT provides good information when it comes to education finance. So I want to stay abreast of what they're talking about at the state level, and they're actually thinking about starting a committee to work on that foundation aid formula, and I certainly want to be a part of that committee if they do find it, put it together, just so we can see exactly, exactly what they're talking about with the new formula and make sure our district is represented. So I think it's a good idea to join REFIT for this year. We're also in the Nassau, Suffolk, and New York State and Islip School Boards Association, as well as the Black Caucus of Board of Education members. So that's the $1,110 increase there. Supplies and materials are going up $1,000. I think we all can attest to that, that supplies and really all of the things we purchase are going up quite a bit. Next area, 1040, a contractual salary increase, and again, supplies going up. That's kind of a common theme that we're going to see. 1060 is the district meeting or the vote. The district meeting is actually the vote, the third Tuesday in May. And we see a decrease in the first line, the voting machines. It's not because we're not going to vote or anything like that. It's just that I think we've had some extra money in that code, and we'll be fine without that $5,000 in that code. And then the supplies are going up a little bit. There are new ballots that the clerk is going to have to send out this year for early voting. School administration is the superintendent's office. We see overtime is going up to meet past year's expenditures, and that trend seems to be continuing, and other than that, contractual salary increases. 1310 on the second page is the business office. Those are contractual salary increases, and then the overtime as well going up. We merged HR and payroll, so that increased us a little bit there. Other than that, no major changes. Our flexible benefit plan is going up a little bit. You could see it was a little under budget the prior year, and we continue to pay that this year. So the expenditures this year will go up. We move down to the independent auditor fee, the 1320 area. We did an RFP the past school year, so we have a couple of new auditors this year, and the cost is a little bit higher after that RFP. Actually, two of our auditors just switched roles. They're still the same auditing firms. Next area, 1325, is the treasurer, and that's just a salary increase, otherwise staying the same. Purchasing, we could talk about a little bit. We have a large increase in 1345, 1600, purchasing non-instructional salary. Remember, we added a purchasing agent last year, which we're just picking up this year in the budget. We also combined a couple of departments, and we moved a driver messenger out of the IT area into the purchasing area. So we combined everybody together. So it just helps to make deliveries more efficient. We have more people to, if we have a big delivery, to take care of things together. So that's really moving a position. We talked about the position that we added last year. It just came to fruition in the budget this year. Fiscal agent fees, we do an SEC filing every December. That's staying the same. We can move on to the next page. Attorney's fees, we're just anticipating or preparing for an increase of 8% there in case we need that. If we don't spend it, if we don't realize that expenditure, we'll have that in our budget. Human resources, just contractual increases. You could see a number of decreases there. Just because they hadn't been spending in that code, so we're lowering those areas. I don't think it was necessary. And BOCES is going up. It's just some softwares that we have, our OLAS, our ASAP, excuse me. And we do a diversity job hiring fair there as well. Records management, 1460. Again, lowering a budget code that hasn't been spent by 1,500, and otherwise salary increases, contractual. 1480 area is our public relations. We use an outside firm now, Syntax, and we have an inside person from Syntax who's in our district every day. So that's just the cost there, going up a little bit. In case we're still working on their contract, I may adjust that. The print and mail, that's our production office. Last year, we changed the structure a little bit. We had a retirement, so rather than using subs, we hired a full-time person, so you could see the salaries went up a little bit, but the subs came down. So it's just a change in how we're staffing that department. The big change in the 1670 area, production, is our BOCES costs. The big copy machines that we have there now that we lease through BOCES, so we get BOCES aid on that, have come to end of life, so we're going to upgrade our copiers this year. The end of this year, it'd probably be June, July or something, so the increase in cost is going to hit next year, next budget year. Then we have 1910, our insurance area. If you know how the weather's been crazy, we get these crazy rains, it is causing, maybe not in our district, but we are with, in a consortium with other school districts, it's causing a lot of claims in areas, so we all have to share the burden of that. So insurance rates are unfortunately going up. So that is the general support area. I will share now. We will jump to security. Okay. Mr. Byron McRae will take over on that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to start off by commenting on the support that I have from the school district, from this school board, the cabinet members, and especially the school board, because you've given me all the tools that's needed to keep our staff and students safe. There's not one request that I haven't requested that the board didn't find a way to make it happen. So this is very important, for the safety of everyone in the school district. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you for your kind words, Byron. We appreciate the support as well from you and your staff.
Thanks. So I want to start off, by basically, our school safety, what our mission is, and our mission is to provide, quality security, not just regular security, quality security using some of the procedural, practices and responding to crisis and being able to even respond to any threat in this district. We want to be the support network so our students can get their education, and we want everyone to feel comfortable in the school environment, because if you're comfortable in your environment, you'll be able to teach better and you'll be able to learn better. So we're going to start off by some of the initiatives that we are working on in 2023-24, and we're going to start off speaking on the installation of the vape detectors. Now, these vape detectors are detectors that pick up several things, not just vapes. They pick up THC, they pick up aggression, so if the students are fighting. They also pick up sound, if the kids are yelling for help in the bathroom. They pick up shots. If there is an active shooter situation in the building, these vape detectors will help us locate where that situation is by alerting us in which the proximity of the active shooter in the building. So these vape detectors come with a lot of different features that are working. We've increased the amount of vape detectors. We started it off last year in the high school as a pilot program. It was successful. And now we're expanding it to the middle schools and the high school. Initially was budgeted for 20, and thanks to the superintendent and cabinet, we're increasing it to majority of the student bathrooms in the middle school and high school. So we're looking at placing it in approximately 65 to 70 more bathrooms in the school district. The additional cameras, we're working on that. We're going to install cameras to cover the fields. We're going to get better quality cameras because the quality of cameras that we have, they're old, we installed them probably 12, 13 years ago. So now a lot of the new systems that are out, they're better enhanced, and you can actually view things. The quality is amazing. So we're working on that and adding additional cameras. The panic buttons, this is something that was installed a few years ago, but what we did was we enhanced them due to Alyssa's law and the requirements. We're using the buttons that were already installed about 2-3 years ago, the blue and the red buttons. And the red buttons basically communicate directly to the front office and our school safety office. It opens up the intercom and it communicates with us. And we also don't accept the blue button yet. We haven't integrated the blue button, but I'm a firm believer, if someone presses the red button, I need to visually see them and make sure they're safe. I don't want someone pressing a blue button stating I'm safe. So we're actually going to, go out, make sure they're safe when they push that button. The Visual Monitoring Center. This is a center that, am I supposed to turn the slides?
I turn it, but do you want to go through these? Then we'll go more in
Okay.
depth into them.
So the Visual Monitoring Center, that's our center that covers everything. They basically cover the vape detectors, they cover the cameras, they monitor the door tabs. Our door tabs are the door tabs that,
Trying to catch up.
all right. Our door tabs are the
don't
door
think we have
tabs. So the door tabs, if someone tries to break in the building or tries to force their way in the building, we'll get alerted. If a child elopes from the building, we'll know immediately. And the good part about the Visual Monitoring Center, we have someone there monitoring the cameras. We have 2 staff members monitoring the cameras, 2.5 staff members during school hours, and off school hours, we have 1 person monitoring the cameras. So once we get all the new cameras installed, we'll be able to, better monitor the district. Our door traps, I call them people traps. A lot of people refer to them as man traps in other school districts. I refer to them as people traps. These should be, the installation of these people traps should start July of 2024. It's a process to have them installed, and we're going to start. We may not be able to get every school done over the summertime, but we will get, a decent amount done, and then we'll complete it the following year.
Talk about that one.
Let's talk about SACRO, which is our Student Community Relations Officers. Now, these are a group of staff that we've hired that currently work in a law enforcement capacity or retired from law enforcement capacity. They work for the Sheriff Department in Suffolk County PD, and some of them retired detectives from the city. And they basically work on creating, programs and, conducting these programs with our students. They foster positive relationships with outside school entities that will contribute to the success of our students. They go out to the businesses, and the businesses will communicate. I can give you an example. Like McDonald's, Wendy's, these fast food restaurants, our students like to hang out and cut. These managers now can reach out to me and call me on my cell phone, and we'll send someone from SACRA over, and we push them back into school. So, we're out there trying to keep our kids in school. And listen, they form a relationship with these students that are cutting. And it turns out that these students, they stay in school. So we instruct trainings for the community, a lot of active shooter trainings for the churches. We created a faith-based active shooter program that we can train the faith-based organizations and the community members. And of course, they're ready and prepared to respond to any active threat towards our school district. So the mission, of course, is to give our students a voice. All right. So let's talk about our student initiatives. We've done quite a bit over the last year, and I just want to let everyone know the things that we are doing in the district to keep our students off the street and to support them and instill some type of discipline in them. We've created the Brentwood Boxing Program, which started last year. It's a great program. Right now, we have about 56 members. We went over. We started with 35. We wanted to keep it at 35, but it's hard to tell a student no. So we've been allowing them to participate, and majority of the time they show up. Every class, we have approximately 40 to 50 students that show up, and I'm happy that these students are coming, showing up, and they're dedicated to the boxing field. We created the Youth Police Academy. We did our first Youth Police Academy last year, where we incorporated middle school students and high school students. And what we did was we basically trained them to understand what police officers do and what it entails. And we did mock car stops. We did how to interact with a police officer if you're stopped by a police officer. We basically gave them similar training to what police officers go through. And we actually took them out to the facilities. We took them to the police academy. We took them to the police department, 3rd Precinct. We took them to the sheriff's department. We took them to the correctional facilities. And we also took them to the district attorney's office, where a lot of the bureau chiefs came down and they spoke to the students so they could understand the process of how cases after arrest are processed. So, we had 21 students participate, and we're probably going to increase it this year. But it's a fabulous program, and I see students walking around the building and like, can I join next year? And I'm like, you got to give other people a chance. A few of them are going to rope back in, but it's a great program for them to learn and also learn and see and, show respect for law enforcement, and also now they want to become law enforcement officers. Our self-defense classes, this program was created because a lot of our students wanted to wrestle. And a lot of them, they couldn't take them all. There was a lot of students that, went, tried out, and there's no way he was going to be able to train a couple of hundred wrestlers to compete. So what we did was we created a self-defense program to give them something to do. And we're trying to get the additional names of the people who couldn't participate in wrestling. So when we started this self-defense program, we figured, this would help them out until next year when they go and join wrestling. All right. So this is something that the superintendent and myself, we discussed, and she thought it was a great idea, and she ran with it and told me, you're going to do this. So this is a security guard training for students. A lot of our students, when they graduate from school, have no intentions on going to college. No, they don't. They figure they got their high school diploma and that's it, and they want to go into the work field. With this security guard training for students, they will be licensed security guards and will be able to go out and seek employment, full-time employment, after they graduate. And the good part about this program is there are a lot of students who want to go to college and looking for part-time work. With this license, they'll be able to work part-time and still go to college, and the ones who don't want to pursue further education, they can go get a full-time job. After they're in the work field for a few years, they can come back to Brentwood and apply, and we can hire them when they turn 21. And this is how we keep our students in the community. They know our schools. They know, what it takes to operate a school, and bringing them back when they, have some work experience will be very helpful to my department. So these classes are going to be on Saturdays. There are 2 Saturdays for them to get their certification. And what I'm going to do is assist them with filling out the applications and, getting them out there to get the fingerprints, which I'll be speaking to the superintendent once again for money to get the fingerprints done, fingerprints and security license, so she could speak to the board and fund that. It's $100 for the fingerprints and $35 for the application, but the truth is, for $135, they'll have a license where they can go get full-time employment. So that's pretty cheap.
How are we going to inform the student body that this is available to them?
I just created the flyer yesterday. I'm going to send it to Cabinet for approval, and once they approve, we'll start posting it, and we're going to start February 3rd of next month on Saturdays.
Thank you.
We'll jump to your line-by-line budget. Were there
Yes.
other initiatives you wanted to talk about? that we don't have in order?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
So let's start with our line-by-line budget.
Hang on
gonna
a
s-
second, Brian.
So as you can see, the identifier for security, our budget code is 1625. I'm going to start off with 1600 and 3602. And I'm going to briefly talk about staff salary. I'm going to mention that something great happened last year where contractually our security staff, their contract didn't expire till next year. And we went in early and gave the school safety staff increases before their contract expired, which is a great thing, to basically keep our staff, retain our staff from going to other school districts and, you know, let them know that we care about them and we want to retain them here in Brentwood School District. So I think that made the staff definitely happy and it brought up morale. And, you know, I'd ask that the next contract, we give them another decent raise, and I think what we gave was definitely appreciated. And I just want to thank the board for that, approving that. Let's move on to 1610, overtime. You're going to see an increase in overtime. With the more programs we have, the more sporting events, the more activities that we have in the school district, it's going to cost us. So this overtime is covering these events. After meeting with the assistant superintendent, I went back to my office and I realized that we're covering Saturday academies, we're covering events that are happening within the high school, we're covering activities in the evening that the schools are having for our students, which is a great thing, but we do have to cover these activities, so it's going to cost us a little bit in overtime. So that's what the increase is there for. Sub-salary. The sub-salary is the only thing that I'm going to ask. That's 1620. With 1620 sub-salary, I'm going to ask for an increase of $1 when we do go into negotiation because I just want to stay, you know, even with the other school districts. Security equipment. This year, we're going to be purchasing vehicles. I'm going to request next year 2 additional vehicles. This will basically increase the fleet, and I'll be able to remove the cars that we've had for 15, 20 years. And the vehicles will look decent. So after this year and next year, we should have a decent fleet. Security uniforms, I'm going to request additional funding for that because the increase of uniforms, clothing, coats. This year we did purchase coats for the school safety staff, and next year with the cost of uniform pants, they went up by almost 15, 20%. So I am going to ask for a 10, 15% increase in uniforms.
Do we have rain gear for our staff?
We do have rain gear. What we do is we purchase ponchos. I purchased 200 ponchos, so they're disposable poncho rain gear that's visible in the rain. And now everyone has about 5 or 6 of them that are disposable. Wasn't into the sharing of the raincoat thing, so that's why I brought the disposable ponchos.
Thank you.
Security contractual. Right now, I'm working on a figure to submit, but I did get some additional monies to satisfy a lot of the things that I was requesting. And this is how amazing this board and this district is, because a lot of the things that I'm requesting, I can get done this year. So by July 1st, I should be way ahead of my request for next year. So I will submit something later on after I sit down with Stacy, the Assistant Superintendent of Finance, and discuss this. Security in-service training. I'm happy to say that all of our school safety staff members were trained in CPI, which is crisis prevention intervention, and also majority of them are already first CPR and AED, but now I've added the addition of first aid, whereas they can respond to first aid situations. So I just have to complete, we have a lot of new staff that we just hired because we did increase security in the middle schools, which is great, and we've increased the staffing. We've hired a lot of part-timers. So tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be training staff from 10 to 12 in the Learning Center on CPR. So we're going to make sure that we keep our staff trained. So this security in-service training, we spent every single dime this year. So it may say 12 month that we have money in there, it's gone. We spent it today. So we have to finish training the additional staff, CPI, crisis prevention intervention, and we're going to continue to do it because they have to recertify. I know you're not supposed to recertify until every 2 years, but I'd like them to train every year. So we're going to be doing that on a regular. Security equipment repair, of course, right now we just purchased new radios with the money that we had in this year's budget. So we're hoping not to, have a lot of repairs. We do have computer repairs and stuff like that that we need for equipment repairs. We are adding an addition to our radio system, whereas if our radio is going to be keyed up, we'll know which radio is being keyed up, because we're having an issue with locating staff members when there's an emergency. So the staff members will key up and they're quick to respond and not be able to voice, the complete term, or we may not be able to understand them because it's scrambled. But if we have the locator, we'll be able to know exactly where to respond. So we're adding that feature to the radios. Security travel. I don't really ask for much, and I'm not going to really ask for an increase because I use the school district vehicle if I need to travel. So if I need to go upstate to Albany or something, I'll take the security vehicle. So the cost there's no increase. Security materials and supplies, I'm going to ask for a slight increase. As the Assistant Superintendent of Finance mentioned, supplies are increasing, the cost of supplies, and we're going to need that additional 10 to 15%. So in closing, I just want to once again reiterate what I mentioned earlier. We have a great department, great school safety team. I find that 99% of my staff are dedicated and they want to do the job. We have a great relationship with the community, and we're actually allowing the community to have a voice. They're reaching out to us, they're letting us know what their problems are, they're letting us know if there are issues within the district, and they're helping us. We have community members, if they see an accident, come out their house and support and help out. So, this is amazing to see that we're coming together, and I think this is because of your leadership that this is starting to happen.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Byron.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, sure.
Byron, I just wanted to let you know that you just took my words. I was just going to say that about you. Is it on? No? Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, I said that you just took my words. We're very fortunate to have you and to have your team. I have never really seen a director of security that wears so many hats. And this level of support that you provide our students and our staff is really incredible. So I do have to commend you for that and your staff. And they're amazing. I mean, they greet me and the students with a smile, but they also are tough when they have to be tough, and that's okay. And that red button, it works. I mean, I didn't know what it was 3 years ago when it was installed for the first time. I pressed it, and I've had everybody was in my office. So now we know how to find it, right? So thank you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Byron. We'll move on with our transportation. That'll be Eric Carlin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present the transportation budget for the 24-25 school year. It'd be a tough act to follow, Byron, but I'll try my best. Okay, to start, I just want to kind of give a little bit of an overview of what it is that the Transportation Department does. It's a very large operation, and we have a lot of people that we employ. We contract basically through Suffolk Transportation for all our transportation needs within the district. Each day, the district runs approximately 109 large buses, 158 minibuses, 16 wheelchair buses, and 1 Tahoe and a partridge in a pear tree. We have a lot of vehicles out there on the road, and sometimes accidents happen, but when they do, Byron's staff is there to support us. Anytime we have a bus stop issue with parents, and, or non-parents, just community members who people are walking on the lawn or they don't understand, Byron's staff is always there to help us address these issues and handle those situations professionally. So thank you for that as well. Each day, the buses transport 16,762 students to 18 district schools, 21 private and parochial and charter school locations, and 27 special needs and pre-K schools, both to and from school every day, and that's no small task. In addition to employing drivers for each of the above buses, the district also uses over 160 driver's assistants through a combination of district employees and some that we have to contract through Suffolk Transportation for. So that's over 440 people employed providing service to the district's residents each school day, not counting the behind-the-scenes support staff, the clerical, people in the buildings, in the transportation department, in the bus company. So it is a major operation, and the budget will speak to that. Some of the accomplishments that we've taken on this year, actually the past 2 years, just like Byron has trained his staff on crisis prevention intervention strategies, we've taken to training all of our driver's assistants who handle our special needs population. There wouldn't be a driver's assistant on a bus unless it was recommended or mandated by an IEP. So they're dealing with some of our highest need population, and they're all trained in crisis prevention intervention strategies. And we had that done through our district staff. Sean Coffin, Lisa Navarro have committed time and come in and trained our staff in these strategies. And it helps. It makes a difference. In addition, the Transportation Department supervisors now have access. I've been for years, Stacy will know this was a big pet peeve of mine. I want to see a student's IEP, and it was kind of like held tight to the chest, but actually there's a law that we're part of the service providers. We make up the beginning and the end of every student's day who has an IEP. So it helps us to know if this kid's a runner. When he gets off the bus, we need to know that, and a lot of times they provide valuable information about a student's likes, dislikes, best learning modality. And if we have a student that we're having issues with, or DA's having issues with, they'll approach the supervisor, and we could look at the student's IEP and offer a strategy on how to best manage or handle or affect this kid, the student, so that when they get to school, they're not riled up. They haven't had like a crazy ride. They've had a nice ride. They look forward to their ride, and they're ready to learn. So that really helps with what our main mission is, to educate children. So that's been a blessing that we've had access to those this year. In addition, in the last year, we've provided all our DAs with 3-season jackets. There's nice jackets. They're yellow on top with the reflective tape. They have zip-in liners so that they're 3-season jackets. And it gives our DAs a professional appearance. They all look professional, and it's also a safety feature so that when they're out there, they're getting off the bus, they step into traffic, they're highly visible. So it's twofold. Well, 3. It keeps them warm too on cold days like this. So that was a very good thing that we were able to accomplish. And I think we had some pictures up there of a couple DAs.
You had it on the last one. Yeah.
There's some of our DAs artwork in their new jackets, so you can see that. They all like them. Again, it's helped with morale, and they feel part of our organization. In addition, the district has contracted, the board should know, you guys did it, it contracted with with a company to provide, I think it's called Bus Patrol is the name of the company. We've installed stop arm cameras on all our buses so that anybody who drives past a school bus with their red flashes on will get a ticket. It reinforces the fact that you don't ride past the school bus. I don't know if anybody saw the news, maybe last week, I think it was out in Manorville. A lady put her daughter on the bus, and on that side of the bus, not the other side, which you know, but drove right through, and you know, and this lady had to jump out of the way. You know, I discussed that with the bus company. They always say we always try to pull as far over to the right when they pick up students, so there's no room for anybody to get by. Had that driver moved over more, you know, you could prevent things like that from happening.
There's some districts that I've seen on the news where they actually, when they pull in, they kind of go in at a slant where they block the oncoming traffic or traffic from behind them. I don't know if that'll be something that, you know, but I just found it interesting that they utilize that type of,
Yeah, just
know,
positioning the bus in the
yeah.
right way could prevent a lot of situations from that happening. But so yeah, that's definitely strategies that are out there that they're using. That hopefully that driver who had someone drive by, she should now pull more to the right. And then also we've had a tracking software. This year we have a new one. It's called Where's the Bus software, where parents could download the application and, you know, see where their bus is. So instead of waiting outside, you know, for the bus in the cold weather, you it'll notify you when the bus is about a mile away, 2 minutes, and they could get right out there, so it's less time sitting out there in the cold. It's a valuable tool, and it's also provided us, the district, an opportunity, as well as the buildings. All the buildings have a log on, so they can now log on and see actually live where their buses are moving. If one's late, they could log in, see where it's going. It's a really great interactive tool. I use it all day long. I mean, just looking at stops, if a parent calls up and complains, this bus was speeding down the road, I could go onto this app and it'll tell me exactly the speed it was at every point in its route. And I can say, ma'am, I looked at the bus and it was only doing 30 on that road. So you could kind of see, or if it was going fast, I could see and I call the bus company and say, hey, you better call your driver in and tell him to slow down. So it's a really great tool for us to use. I use it every day. It's basically one of my screens is on Where's the Bus all day long, just so I can keep an eye on it. So this year the transportation budget was $34 million, a little bit over $34 million. Next year we're proposing a budget of $36.7 million. This is a 7.94% increase. It's due to an anticipated CPI increase. The transportation contract each year increases by CPI. So we have to budget for that. We're anticipating an increase in our driver assistance costs. We have a few that we have to go to the Suffolk bus to hire. I'm hoping that we could attract more with better salaries. If something like that's in the work, that's more on your end, as well as fuel costs and the increased number of special needs activity buses. We've implemented a lot of new programs for special needs kids to stay after school to get additional training, to additional experiences, which is benefiting them. And it's partly to make up for some of the learning losses that we experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. But as a result, we have to send a minibus. That minibus has to have a DA on it. And honestly, the bus company really wasn't billing us correctly for the last 2 years. We've gotten away with pretty good chunk of change, but now they've corrected their billing, and it's kind of really hit us in addition to that, so it's been twofold.
Can we edit that tape?
They know. I wouldn't say it if they didn't know.
Roll
and they're not
back,
coming back to us, but so fortunately, we made out there for a few years. And also, in addition, none of this would be possible without the support of the administration, the Board of Education, and most importantly, the community. So, a big thank you to everybody and all the players in the game for providing us with the resources we need to effectively get the majority of our children to school ready to learn. So thank you. Without further ado, I'm going to step into the line-by-line budget.
Just give me a second.
Thank you, Eric.
Put on my glasses, which I've had to use for the last year.
I wear mine for fun. They don't work anymore.
Yeah. All right, we have the budget up. Okay, I'm going to start with the budget for transportation starts with A, 5510. 5510 codes are our central transportation office expenditures. The ones below at 5540 are our contracted transportation expenditures. So starting off with the 5510, 1500 code transportation instructional salaries. We never budget anything here, but for aid purposes, what I do at the end of the year is I go through, I take a portion of Wanda's salary, a portion of everybody's salary who's in administration, who does a little something in transportation, a portion of the principal's salaries out at the building, some of the secretaries who field transportation calls, and I take that and I journalize it and I charge it to this code so that I get transportation aid on it. So it's just a way to better our transportation. So you don't see anything budgeted, but at the end of the year, I will do a journal entry to maximize transportation aid to pull in the people who actually do some work for transportation that don't get paid out of these codes. So that's why you see that code with a zero budget, but always an expenditure, though that's a journalized expense. So 5510, 1600 is our clerical staff within the transportation department. That's just a contractual increase to manage those staff. 5510, 1601 is the overtime code. We're going to hold that steady. It seems to be sufficient for our operation. 5510, 1900, these are our driver's assistants. They're known as bus monitors. I think they like driver's assistants. It sounds better. That's what we call them. So maybe we should update our budget explanation, but bus monitor is a driver's assistant. I'm hoping to be able to attract more driver's assistants within district. You know, we pay a little bit more when we have to pay Suffolk for a driver's assistant as opposed to getting them hired ourselves. I mean, I don't think a week goes by where Dan and I don't interview a driver's assistant, but we lose them just as quick as we get them. So it's really, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a game. So we're always dealing with that, but hopefully we'll get that staff up to a more acceptable level in all in-house employees. So we have better control over them. Extra hours, this is normally a driver's assistant is contracted for 4 hours, but sometimes we have runs that go a little bit longer, so we require them to stay an extra half an hour, or, you know, then this is where the additional funds come from for those particular situations. 5510, 4460 is contractual. That's really where we didn't budget anything here this year. We haven't spent everything in the past few years. Again, this is one of those codes where I journalize the cost of, so we have an office here in the building. We pay for heat. We use electricity. We use insurance. We use, you know, so at the end of the year, we'll journalize these costs and put them into this code. That's why I don't budget anything there, because we don't spend them there. But I apply the cost there again to maximize our transportation aid at the end of the fiscal year. Transportation BOCES, this is what I thought it was. This is our transportation routing software that we get, that we use. It's called Edgelog. This is how we route all our students. So we're keeping that code static. It's been sufficient over the past few years to cover that expenditure. And material supplies, we're going to hold steady as well. Getting into the 5540 codes, this is our contracted transportation. This is where we pay Suffolk. 4001, this is our 9-hour large buses. We're looking at, you can kind of see the theme here on most of these buses, looking for about a 3.5% increase for CPI. The 6-hour van, this is more of our in-district and in-district special needs students, and this is where our activity buses are falling under. So I had to deal with that increase. So that's where you see a major increase there. The special contract midday buses, the 9-hour midday, we don't have any expenditures here. I have to take a
It's
look.
probably just going into 4 and 6-hour middays.
Yes, it's
That's
probably-
any UPK we take home midday, it's some of our early release buses.
Okay. And then the 5540, 4104 is the van out-of-district code. And again, that has to do with some of our activity buses as well to provide services for our special needs population. So we're asking for a little bit more of an increase there as well. A lot of a lot of what we do requires us to travel further with a lot of McKinney-Vento students, as well as a lot of charter schools that open up. Our charter schools have been the enrollment's been going up considerably within the last year. And these out-of-district vans now are going from 4 hours to 5 hours, from 5 hours to 6 hours. So we're experiencing those types of increases there as well. So that's why we're upping that budget is there. Transportation Special Contract Individual, this is a code that Special Services uses to provide trips for special education children. 5544,100 Transportation Special Residential. Again, that's another different type of code that Special Services uses to provide services to their population. Interscholastics, again, that's of course our athletic teams getting around, going to competitions at other buildings. That's the cost there that's budgeted. Curricular activities, programs, this is some central money that the district has available to fund some central field trips that are some initiatives that come out from our instructional staff. There's no funds in the other ones. These have expenditures. The high school in South, in the past, they've had expenditures. Sometimes the schools will transfer money, some of their own building money into these codes to fund field trips as well. And that's what you see there. I don't budget for that. And then we have obviously a central field trip code, which is used to provide trips through the central office. I think that's the approval process that goes through the instructional offices that they use to dole out money to different buildings for different initiatives that they have. B, transportation, that's our student workers. We have some programs that we won with community-based organizations where they go and work at different places. So there'd be transportation buses to provide them transportation to these specific programs. Music and band, this is used for the music and band, Syracuse trips, get to different competitions, things of that nature. That's maintaining, it's pretty static. And then fuel, I'm looking for a $100,000 increase with fuel costs. Actually, they're starting to come down now, but they have been going up in the past year, and I anticipate that it's probably just going down now. Possibly an election year, who knows, but we'll see after that. They might jump up. I don't think they've been making any more fuel, so what's in the ground is in the ground, so I anticipate that going up a little bit. And then we've always put a line in here for our McKinney-Vento homeless students. These are children that become homeless that we're responsible to transport. If they want to continue to attend Brentwood, they become homeless, and their homeless shelter is in Center Moriches or it's in Queens. We have to get them and bring them here. So we put a line in the budget to deal with those type of unusual expenditures, just so we could kind of track them a little bit better. We broke out that expenditure, and we will charge those expenses as they happen. And I guess we don't have the other. So that's really the transportation budget in a nutshell. Does anybody have any specific questions that they'd like to ask in regards to the transportation department, the transportation budget, anything?
Yeah, I do. I have one. I know it's been something kind of hot in the news about the electric school buses. Now, would we be protected contractually of that cost changing when it comes to fuel, or is that something that might change? How do we budget for that potential cost?
We have, I think, 2 buses running now, running electric buses in the district.
We have about 6 in the
Oh,
district.
6? More than, okay. They started with 2, I guess they're up to 6 now, but they've been writing grants. Anytime I see a grant, I email it to the bus company, like, here, look, you can get more electric buses. So I'm hoping that should offset the fuel cost a little bit, but there's also, I guess, charging costs. I don't know how that's going to play out. That might even require us to possibly even rebid the transportation contract at some point down the road to account for that, because we bid our contract, it's a wet contract, meaning that we provide the fuel for the bus company. I guess there's 2 types, either dry or wet contract, but that's going to change it. Now there'll be a 3rd contract, I guess, that might require us to rebid to deal with a situation like that. But that's definitely cutting edge, and it's something down the road that will, I'm sure, affect us. I can imagine the batteries will probably need replacing after so many years, and then it's going to be a charge contract or a non-charge contract.
Like the controversy with the Tesla is how expensive it is to replace those batteries, like with the cost effectiveness, even would it be even cost-effective to implement having more of that fleet versus the fuel fleets?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's something we'll
It's
figure out
cutting
as
edge. It's
time goes
cutting edge.
on, like, what'll that look like in the future?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a choice, though, because the way the state is going, they're
Right.
forcing us to go to an
Go
electric
electric,
fleet.
yeah.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
And it is-
and then we'll have to usurp the costs of replacing the
bus. Oh,
batteries.
yeah, from my
Yeah, so
understanding.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there's going to be some cost somehow, somewhere.
Yeah,
you know.
that's how they kind of explained it.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it's kind of something that's, in legislation right now, but they kind of made it sound like, now they're going to have to increase yard sizes because storing the buses, how long the battery will last, and there's a lot of logistics, was talked upstate. It's kind of scary to hear all those things, and it definitely, I don't know how that cost could look, so I was,
I'm sure they're going to be like running wires all over those
Yeah.
lots. They probably wouldn't have a drop of
idea
snow
what
on their lots with
yeah.
all the electricity running underneath, but
yeah,
they would have saved money on snow plowing, but they'll be putting a ton of wires all around those lots, I guess, to charge these vehicles. But yeah, that's a very good question. That's interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to shake out myself.
Me too.
Yeah, maybe, like I said, we have a wet and a dry contract. Maybe we'll have a charged and an uncharged contract now.
Yeah.
Who knows how that's going to work itself out.
Well, we just
but-
put in chargers, but not nearly enough to charge all of our buses.
Yeah, so, well, that's another initiative that we found a grant through PSE&G. They are actually installing 3 charging stations per meter. We went around the district, and actually just signed another contract that they finished another charging station. If you notice, the little things they call juice boxes. Kind of cute for elementary school. My daughter's making it's called a juice box. It's about this big, and now we got over 75 of these charging stations going in. We probably have about 35 up at this point, but that's going to generate revenues. So Monday I'm getting a training from the company. NLX Way is the name of it. They're going to show me how to manage that, but we've set up a charging account now, so people who go to these stations and charge, we're billing for them to recharge their cars. So lo and behold, we're like gas stations now. So,
School district / gas station.
yeah, so we have, you'll start seeing them around the district. I think Laurel, Loretta started, there's some at B&G, maybe Southeast, North Elementary, I think, got them in so far. To Devon, where's to Devon? That's, I just signed the agreement that they finished them there. So, yeah.
So is there any synergy between the solar panels and this juice box? Like, do they work in conjunction with each other somehow?
I guess they should at certain buildings. I mean, if it's backfeeding the panel, it's got to be kind of coming off it, which to me, that's true solar. You'd hate to see like a diesel generator next to a charging station, like, what are we doing? But so yes, true solar is true electric cars, But yeah, so that I'm curious to see. They've been out there for maybe a month now. But like I said, Monday I'll get trained on how to look through the software and see if we've gotten any revenues now, and I'll report back to Stacy, who could report to Wanda and the board about what type of revenue we're taking in. We got a whole new revenue stream. Exciting, right? Before, I'm sure someone's going to step on us. But I'm just waiting.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank
And before, Stacy, continue with the next part, I just want to say that your efforts and dedication really doesn't go unnoticed. We'll see how you're enhancing the transportation department, and, we want to thank you for that. And Lucille and her team, they're amazing also. So I just want to say thank you to them as well.
Thank you, yes. I respect what they do.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you, Eric and Byron, great job. We'll move on to benefits, the last few codes that we'll be talking about tonight. So it's right below the 5540 area. Our first budget code, benefit code, I should say, is the 9010 area. That's our ERS, or our employees' retirement system. So it's the retirement system for the non-certificated employees. And they're estimating the rate to go up about 3 percentage points for next year. Not 3%, 3 percentage points is a lot more than 3%. So you can see that increase reflected in our budget. It's not just that's driving the code up so much, though. It's also, we have increased salaries for our employees, as well as we've hired more employees than the previous year. So all of that put together leads to quite a big increase in that code. And as we know, year after year, benefits, this whole area really is a cost driver for budgets, and unfortunately, we're going to see that a few lines down when we get to 9060, the health code areas. But to continue on, then we have our 9020 area, which is our TRS, our Teachers Retirement System. So that's the retirement system for all of our certificated staff, the teachers, the administrators, the TAs. They're estimating that rate to go up as well. We only get a range right now of how much it will go up, so I budget to the top of that range. I'll get a more precise number in February, so I'll adjust that number. There's no reason to adjust it up. I'll only adjust it down because I'm at the top of the range right now. So again, we've hired additional teachers and administrators, additional staff, and that's what's causing, again, an almost $2 million increase. The 9030 area, Social Security or FICA, that strictly goes up and down based on our salaries within the budget. So the percentage itself didn't change, it's just the salaries in our budget had gone up. Again, the additional staff, and it's all great things for students. We're doing so many good things in the district. So then we have our 9030, the Medicare, the district share. Again, just like FICA, it's the same thing, same percentage. It's just driven by the salaries within our district. The 9040 area is our workers' comp. That's an area that continues to rise as well, so we're going to have to look at that, maybe some prevention plans or strategies we can put within the district. We do have our workers' comp carrier. They have a trainer who comes out and works with Jay and the custodians, and we go over what the accidents were or what the injuries were within the district, and we try to look at, proactive ways that we can help avoid some of those incidents. Mm-hmm. So it is something we look at, but unfortunately it does still seem to creep up. 9045 is life insurance. We locked in that rate for 3 years, but with additional employees, the cost goes up. That goes hand in hand with 9055 disability insurance. That's something that we bid out together because they're so closely related. And again, that's the cost is locked in for 3 years, but if our staff changes, then we have to change that number, to make a more realistic budget. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, the 9060 area, which is our health insurance, going up quite a bit. The Empire plan, which is our biggest plan, or NISHIP, is going up anywhere between 6 and 7.5%, depending on which plan an employee takes. So between that increase and the new employees, it's quite a big increase. We also offer a secondary health plan, which is called HIP, and that rate has gone absolutely crazy. It went up 13.5%, and it was just as high going into this year. So that's quite an expensive plan. It's an HMO, so you have to, go to specific doctors. It's not as free kind of, or as flexible, I should say, as our Empire plan, where you don't need a, referral to a specialist. But it's, some people really like that plan, and if they want it, we offer it, but it's quite expensive compared to NISHIP. Then we have we do have to reimburse for Medicare Part D once to our retirees, so that cost continues to increase as well. That's 9060 8031. And then we offer in 9060 8033 an opt-out or a payment in lieu of getting benefits. So if you don't need benefits, you get them through a spouse, maybe you're younger, you get it still through your parent. You could take a payout for, from the district, which is far cheaper than taking the insurance, to the district. It's a much lesser cost. So that is a big number, but if all of those people took insurance, it would be a lot higher, to pay for the actual insurance. We have our dental care premiums. We're keeping that all flat. We offer, again, 2 plans, a self-insured plan as well as like a premium-based plan where it's a little more restricted. 9070 is our health and welfare fund for Local 237. So that, the rates haven't changed, it's just number of employees. Again, we've increased employees, so that went up a little bit. 9075 is our CSEA drug and prescription plan. We had just had a little bit extra in the budget, so I took some out. Nothing's changed on it, rates still seem to be the same, and number of employees as well. In that area is kind of flat, we just had a little extra there. Our BCA vision plan, we're keeping the same. We have an employee assistance program, seems to go up a little bit each year, you know, a little bit more we pay per employee. So we're increasing that a little bit. And then our interest TANs, not really a benefit, but this is where it goes in the budget. TANs are tax anticipation notes. It's just the way a school district is financed. We don't actually get our tax money until January, so we're just getting our tax money in now. So the first 6 months of the year, we operate on cash in hand, or we have to borrow what's known as a tax anticipation note. So I budget for the interest payments on that TAN. We've been lucky enough to have enough cash on hand to pay our way, you know, through the first 6 months and wait to get that tax revenue. So I haven't borrowed a TAN in years, but in case we have to, there was one year we got really, really close, and I was glad, you know, we had the money there in case we needed it. But if I don't have to, I'll try to avoid it just to save that money, that interest payment. Okay, so that's the benefit area. Does anybody have any questions? No questions?
Nothing from the community? Nope. Sorry, just checking to see if we got any questions from the community. So I just wanted to say that, you know, we are fortunate to have you, Stacy, Byron, and Eric leading our district in different capacities, your financial savviness, Byron's security expertise, and Eric's business expertise. You know, rest assured, and I feel confident that we have the right people in the right positions. The amount of attention to detail care for our district students and community is exceptional, and just want to thank you, let you know that we value you, and thank you again for your partnership and collaboration in moving this district forward one step at a time. So we appreciate your buy-in to what the vision of the Board of Education is. It just makes everything easier for us to move this district forward. So, you know, thank you all for your presentations, and we look forward to our continued work together.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And one more thing, Eileen, I just want to say that one of the things that the board really wanted to do was transparency. We want to make sure that everyone really understands the process and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And that's what we are trying to do here with the presentations. The way that Ms. O'Connor presented today, she wanted to explain the process. She said, you know, we have to do this. The board wants transparency and accountability. Let's show everyone how we do it and how everything connects to our students. And that's exactly what you did today. And as you mentioned, we are so fortunate to have you. And Stacey, you wear everybody here wears many hats, as you know. What you do, Eric, you're not just only working in transportation, you're working with Stacey also to ensure that all the state reporting and everything else that we do in terms of our budget is also ready for the Board of Education. And Byron, he's ready to spend our money. So he's also worked with us, all right? So thank you again. And Stacey, as you know, we work so closely together with the cabinet and with everyone. And we want to make sure that our schools have what they need, with your support, of course. So thank you.
And with your leadership one, so thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have any questions, comments from the rest of the board? From the audience? One down, four to go. So I need a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:34 p.m.
Motion.
Motion by Brandon Garcia. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Eileen Harmon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you and have a good night, everyone.